It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life's Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Change makers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. Many people hunger for success, but struggle to balance what they pursue on the outside with what they need on the inside. According to today's guest, Dr. Hitendra Wadhwa, we can learn how to have our outer success reflect our inner core. He joins us today to discuss how our 5 core energies can create outer impact from a place of inner mastery. Dr. Wadhwa is a professor at Columbia Business School and founder of the Mentora Institute and Mentora Foundation. He is the author of the book, Inner Mastery, Outer Impact, How Your 5 Core Energies Hold the Key to Success. Welcome, Dr. Wadhwa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Joan. Pleasure to be here with you and your listeners.
Doctor, many people strive for success. We all want to be liked, we want to be loved and respected, and we believe that the way we're seen on the outside often determines how we see ourselves. Why do we do this? Why do we look to the outside for internal validation?
I think it's important to realize that so much of this comes from our cultural roots. We are almost messaged in this way from a very early stage in our life to look for that outer validation. And that, while it's true in a very dominant way in our Western ethic, it's not necessarily true in all cultures all the time. And so I have the blessing of having immigrated to America at the age of 21, having embraced and adopted this land as my country, as my culture, and at the same time having always had my roots, come from where I grew up, which was in India. And therefore, having seen these dueling kind of views of life as coming from the East and now from the West, I have had the opportunity to be able to recognize that there are actually 2 pathways to how to think about yourself and your sense of self-worth. One is from within, and the other is from without. And it's not in any way wrong to have a outer kind of measure to who you are and how you show up and what your sense of worth and engagement is with the world, because we do owe a responsibility, to society around us, that we are a worthy citizen in some ways, and that we are doing work that is valued, in the world. And at the same time, the opportunity is there for us to pause, to look within, and to recognize that there is something so beautiful, so pure, so unconditionally already whole from the inside, that once we start to access that, which is what I found the wisdom from the East, having brought to me, once we start to access that, we can actually start doing our best outer work.
Yeah, I agree, because, everything on the outside, all the things that we talk about out there, they're fleeting. They don't last. And if the view of ourselves, the way we value ourselves and see ourselves, if it's so dependent on what we have or what other people see, things that can be taken away at any time, that's when we find ourselves in trouble, I think. Would you agree with that?
That's a beautiful way of thinking about it. And I often tell my students at Columbia Business School, who are very ambitious, they're there at school because they're seeking to set the foundations for a career-long pursuit of, outer success, that, just look at the 2008 mortgage meltdown crisis, where some of these, titans of Wall Street suddenly had their foundations shaken, and people who were geniuses in school were suddenly displaced because Lehman Brothers just crashed. We often do not control the outer shifts and changes that are happening in the world, in our communities, in our organizations, in our societies, and at times even painfully so in our families. At the same time, we can control how we show up from the inside, what we cultivate and activate as a spirit from the inside. And when we do that, then we have the opportunity to, in every moment in life, show up very centered from the inside, very anchored from the inside, and yet very agile from the outside. So for some people, that's a little bit of a cop out because they feel like, yeah, but on the outside, I want to have clear direction, clear purpose, clear goals, and I don't want to give them up just because things are changing around me on the outside. And I like to help them see how, when we are having ambition and pursuing goals on the outside, we are doing that for a reason. We are doing that to express our true self, to really do our best to pursue a certain purpose-driven or values-based path because we see those goals as the outer expressions of our values. And if you see it that way, then one way to kind of blend these two is from the inside, always be anchored in your values, in your purpose. But then from the outside, seek to express them in new ways, in fresh ways, in ways that adapt to the ever-changing conditions around you.
One of the biggest lessons I learned from doing this work, I'm in a unique situation because I get to meet all kinds of people. And I have met people over the years who would have every right or reason to fall apart in life. People who were born without arms and legs and became quadriplegics and had some of the biggest challenges you can imagine, children that were killed. And yet they are living a joy-filled, purposeful life because of that inner strength. And that was just one of the biggest things that impacted me so much, is that we have that ability that no matter what we go through to master this inner strength and as you say, to show up in the world in a different way. And these people have gone on to inspire millions around the world with their story and their teachings.
You're so right. You're so right. And in fact, Joan, let me take what you're saying and up it one notch, right? Which is that, like you have been blessed to meet some of these people. I have had many stories like this being shared with me by executives and students in my classes and executive programs, because I draw that out. I ask every participant in my program to share a personal journey, and sometimes it's about themselves, and sometimes it's about a very inspiring member of their family. And I'll give you one example. There was Dr. Anna Pavlik. She was in my executive MBA program, and she mentioned how at a very young age she was very drawn to the idea that she was going to fight cancer. She was literally in school when she just had this keen draw towards wanting to ultimately be a cancer doctor, an oncologist. And along the way, she has had her boyfriend, when she was in college, succumb to cancer and die. And then later she gets married, dates somebody and gets married. And then after 20 years of a beautiful marriage, he gets cancer and he dies. So, talking about tragedy and loss and suffering in life, she's, exhibit number one, in that. And at the same time, what has happened is that through this suffering and this loss, it's brought a lot more humanity to her own journey as an oncologist. She did end up studying medicine and becoming a cancer doctor. And not just has she, through her research, contributed to improving the odds of survival for people, for example, with stage 4 melanoma, from like 5% to 65%, which is one of the things that she's credited for. But in addition, she says these beautiful things about how she has developed so much empathy and the capacity to connect with her patients and their families in a way that wouldn't have been possible without her personal experience. She says, it's given me the ability to talk to patients' families. They understand that I get it, that this is not a job. This is very personal to me. This is why I am there for people from the time they walk into my office and say, here you go, take care of me. I'll be there either until the day that they are cured and become part of my extended family, or until they pass away. And if they do pass, I will ensure that they pass away with dignity, knowing that they were loved and cared for. What I read into that story is that sometimes pain and suffering and loss that comes to us can be our greatest catalyst for change, for growth, for wisdom, for insight that allows us to bring a special gift into the world.
I couldn't agree with you more because that is how I got started doing this work. All of this, the brand creation, the show, everything I do came from a period of 6 months in my life where my mother and sister died, my 23-year marriage ended, and my son left for college. So it was like I had this life one day and the next day it was gone. And so from that pain and from that darkness, everything that I am doing, it was born and it has grown from that. So I absolutely understand what you're saying. And actually, I see it quite often in a lot of the people I meet.
Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, you know, I mean, that is such a powerful thing that you've shared about your own journey, John. I'm grateful that A, it has led you to this work, and B, that you're sharing this now, you know, with us and with me. I sometimes feel that every moment in life is like a conversation the universe is having with us. You know, the universe doesn't have a voice where suddenly the clouds will part and the light will shine and it'll speak like in a human voice, but it speaks to us through every experience that it gives us. And sometimes what it's trying to say is that, John or Hitendra, you have no idea how much strength, how much grace, how much love, how much joy you have within you. I want to wake you up to that. I want to wake you up to that.
And we all do in different degrees. We all have a similar story. Mine might be a little bit more dramatic. Someone else's may be even more dramatic than mine. But we all have these change moments in our life where we have to make a choice of which direction we're going to take.
Correct, correct. And sometimes they come from moments of, like shock, pain, suffering, loss. Sometimes they can be, in some ways, almost the opposite. You are cruising through life, and I found in some cases with some people, there is a stirring, that happens within, a certain moment of deep inspiration, and then it sort of fades away because we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of our daily routine. And so I like to encourage people to look within, check with their inner experiences, not just their outer experiences, those moments where stirrings and inklings come to us, and pay attention to them, honor them, because sometimes in those lies the seed of your true purpose. In my case, I had a stirring like that, very, very beautiful, hunger that got unleashed when I was a teenager to want to really deepen, in a sense, my spiritual explorations. And I only marginally responded to it. For the most part, I was continuing to get caught up in the swirl of ambition on the outside. And I was almost twice that age. I was 17 that time, and it was when I was 34 that I finally, at some point, woke up to the realization that, Hitendra, you've been operating under the assumption that you can get all the richness and beauty and joy that you want from your outer pursuits. But you remember that inkling that came to you when you were 17 and you really wanted to go on a deeper inner journey as well? Well, it's time for you to pay attention to that and respond to that and do something about it. So I've also noticed that, in some cases, paying attention to moments of inspiration and pulls that we experience from within can be a way to awaken to a deeper purpose in life.
Doctor, will you take us through your 5 core energies that you write about?
Sure. Thank you. I have evolved these over the course of my 15 years of teaching a class called Personal Leadership and Success at Columbia. And what I was seeking to do there is help us recognize that we are not just in this world playing an outer game, but we're also playing an inner game. And when I say inner, I don't just mean the distinction between our professional life on the outside and the personal life that we lead on the inside. Because even in our families and in our circle of friends and community, sometimes basically what we're playing is the outer game. The inner game is our thoughts, our feelings, our intentions, our motivations, our values, our beliefs. And so these 5 core energies are a way to help understand and organize and approach the mastery over your inner game. The first of these energies is purpose. And purpose is about having clarity about why you do the things you do. for every conversation, for every relationship, for every project you take on, a next stage in your career that you're working on, what is the deeper why behind it, the purpose behind it? And then what you seek to do is re-express that purpose in the form of the right markers or milestones or goals on the outside from time to time. Yes, I want to achieve this goal and that goal in my personal life or my professional life, but it's always in service of a deeper purpose that I believe in and I want to pursue. So that's the purpose energy. The second is wisdom. Wisdom is about seeking the truth in all situations. Sometimes truth comes knocking on our door and we refuse to listen to it. It comes in the form of a subtle change of the facial expression of the person in front of us that reveals to us that this person actually may not be enjoying what is it that you've just shared or may not be agreeing with it. But we ignore it and we just keep talking and don't really respect the fact that maybe I should pause and inquire and check in. How are you doing? How are you feeling about this conversation? So wisdom is about seeking the subtle, nuanced truth in all situations and making sure that our emotions and our thoughts are always directed in service of the higher purpose that we are pursuing. Because, emotions can be beautiful things as long as we are using them in service of something noble and uplifting. And so that's the wisdom energy. The third is growth. And growth is about recognizing that, I'm always a work in progress. There's always a part of me that is still waiting for me to awaken to a higher potential within me. And therefore, I am not going to be limited by some confining view of my personality or my character or the way I have approached situations in the past, my habits and impulses. I am more than that. And I can keep over time regrooving, so to say, my brain. So that's the growth energy. The fourth is love. So love is about, as Rumi, one of these very beautiful Sufi poets whose work is very popular in America amongst poetry lovers, he once said, love is the bridge between you and everything. And so love is a recognition that there is no such thing as a self-made woman or a self-made man. We all ultimately, in some ways, intricately connected with the web of relationships and just our connection with nature. There is a certain interdependency, and therefore life is inviting us when we fall in love, when we have a child. Our heart expands to the point where their joy becomes our joy and their success becomes our success. But the same can be then expanded further to allow us to feel that with our colleagues at work and with others in our community and with people of other nations and with future generations. The idea that you take joy in their joy and you find success in their success, and that is love. And then the fifth and final is what I call self-realization. Self-realization is about recognizing that beyond our physical self and beyond our thoughts and our feelings from within lies a space of pure spirit within us, pure consciousness within us. And that is our true home. And there are pathways through which we can access it. Taking walks in nature, spending time in rich solitude, like in journaling, or in mindfulness, or meditation, or deep prayer. I have found that people who have access to these kinds of practices on a regular basis in their life have a deeper, more subtler appreciation of this, a undercurrent of peace and tranquility and joy that just exists within them. And that is self-realization, a recognition that everything that you're looking for from the outside in some ways is already available to you on the inside.
So, Doctor, for someone who's listening to you right now and wants to begin on this journey, is there one area that's more important than another? Is it something they should be working on simultaneously? Or if you just tap into one of these energies, do the others tend to fall into place?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I certainly do not believe that there is one singular path here. And at the same time, there are right and wrong ways to do it. So think of this in the following way. Think of a mountaintop, and at the very top of that mountain, at the peak, lies your full attunement with your inner core. Think of your inner core as the space of the highest potential within you. From where, when you operate, from that place, you are beyond insecurities and, attachments and ego. You're deeply committed to a noble cause. You're very connected with people around you, curious and open to growth, very centered, from, a very, very beautiful, joyful place within, and calm and receptive to truth. And that's your inner core. And you can experience it on the inside and then express it in everything you do on the outside. And to get there, there are different pathways. And each of us in some ways is like a truth seeker, seeking to walk our path up to that mountaintop. And some of us might be more purpose-driven, and some might be more wisdom-driven, and some might be more love-driven and beyond. And that is perfectly appropriate for you to pick a energy and a way of engaging with your inner and outer lives that most naturally comes to you, that you're most drawn to. And then in my book, I explain 5 stages through which each of us can advance on any of these energies. So there are 5 stages for purpose, 5 for love, 5 for wisdom, and beyond. And so I would encourage us to start by asking ourselves, which of these 5 energies am I most drawn to? And then for that energy, seek to check in on where you are today and what is the first next step you can take to, let's say, for wisdom, to gain more mastery over your emotions, to gain more awareness over your thoughts, and then learn to re-script the ones that are holding you back from your full potential. Then move from thoughts to a much deeper construct, which is your beliefs. And then from beliefs to perhaps an even deeper construct, which is your capacity to approach moments with a drive towards high performance, but also a non-attachment to the outcome and beyond. And what I was just sharing was examples of those 5 stages, acquiring wisdom. And so one way to figure out sort of which of these you want to take is to ask yourself, what's your greatest hunger right now? It may be that there is a certain pain that you are seeking to transcend, overcome, or a certain hunger you have for a more beautiful life, for a more inspiring life that you want, or more success in your professional life or in a relationship. So start by something that is really pulling you right now. And then ask yourself, okay, which of these energies do I feel may help me most in advancing that cause? And then use that as a way to start this journey up the mountaintop to the very core of your being.
The book is Inner Mastery, Outer Impact, How Your 5 Core Energies Hold the Key to Success. Doctor, where can our listeners go to get more information about you and your work?
Thank you. Hitendra.com. So that's my first name, Hitendra, Hitendra.com. And I have a few articles there. I have an opportunity if folks are interested to sign up for my newsletter. There's also more information on the book.
Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. It has really been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the work you do at a very critical hour in the history of our beloved planet, to really invest in these stories and these inner pursuits that can get us to sustained happiness. And I'm grateful for this time here with your listeners. I wish you and all your listeners all the best in your journey in life and at work towards fulfillment, lifelong fulfillment.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided is the opinion of our guest and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, sign up for our mailing list, and be sure to follow the show on social media. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.